When I first started learning about fractions and about division, I used to get confused with the negative numbers because sometimes the negatives were on the denominator, sometimes they were on the numerator, and sometimes they were completely outside of the fraction. So in this video I'm going to take a few moments to explain how all of these expressions are equal or maybe different. The important thing to keep in mind when you're dividing when you're dealing with fractions is that the same rules that apply to the multiplication of negative numbers apply to the division of negative numbers. For example, the multiplication of two positive numbers equals a positive number. The same thing happens with the division of two positive numbers, or if you have a fraction with a positive numerator and a positive denominator, that is a positive fraction. Now, if you have the division of a negative number with another negative number, same as with the multiplication of two negative numbers, that is also a positive. If you divide negative into negative number, you will get a positive number as a result. The same thing if you have a fraction with a negative numerator and a negative denominator, that will be a positive fraction. If you have different numbers, different signs in multiplication, for example, you're multiplying one negative number and one positive number, then that will result in a negative number. If you're dividing a positive number into a negative number, doesn't matter if the positive is in the numerator or in the denominator. In both cases, as long as the signs are different, that is going to equal a negative number, or it will be considered a negative fraction. Now let's look at what we had above and change it. First we had a over b. Now we're going to change a will be equal to 1 and b will be equal to 2. So I have 1 over 2 where 1 is positive in the numerator and 2 is negative in the denominator. Following the rules, this is a positive number divided by a negative number. This is negative 0.5, or a negative fraction, negative 1/2. Same thing happens if the 1 is negative and the 2 is positive. A negative divided by a positive is a negative number that is also negative 0.5. Now here we have the negative and the fraction is in a parenthesis. So what happens here is whatever is inside of the fraction will change signs. 1 over 2 is positive 0.5, but it has a negative outside of the parenthesis. So what that is 0.5 with a negative, and after I apply the negative, it will become negative 0.5. So these three are exactly the same thing, written in different ways, but the same thing. Now, the same rule applies here. Whatever is inside has to change the sign. If whatever is inside is positive, it will become negative. If I have something negative, it will become positive. Now, negative 1 divided by negative 2, I have the division of two numbers with the same sign. Both of them are negative. Therefore, what's inside of the parenthesis is positive 0.5, but since I have a negative outside, that will become also negative 0.5. And the multiplication of negative 1 is exactly the same thing as just having a negative sign outside of the parenthesis. Remember, everything multiplied by negative 1 changes its sign, changes from positive to negative or vice versa, from negative to positive. So 1 over 2 is positive 0.5, but when I multiply it by negative 1, it will also become negative 0.5. And as we said before, negative 1 divided by negative 2 is positive 0.5, but multiplied by negative 1 becomes negative 0.5. All of these expressions are equivalent, or if you see them as variables, all of these expressions down here, expressed as a over b, are equivalent. You just have to follow the rules of the division of numbers with negatives, which also apply to fractions with negatives inside of them. If the numerator and the denominator are positive, that is a positive fraction. Or if you're dividing two positive numbers, the result is going to be a positive number. If both the numerator and the denominator are negative, that is also equivalent or equal to a positive fraction. And if you're dividing two negative numbers, the result is going to be a positive numbers. Remember, equal signs yield positive numbers or positive results, while different signs will give you a result that is a negative number. Equals are positive, difference are negative. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you found this useful, please subscribe, tell a friend, and don't forget to check some of my other videos and the playlist. Once again, thank you, and see you on the next video.